Okay, welcome. Our first candidate here for the College Board position is Tom Peters. Tom's a former member of our board, so he's been through this process on the other side before. Good to see you, Tom.
Thanks.
Do you want to just start by just talking about your campaign, why you're running for the open seat?
Well, at least Patricia and Jane, yourself know that I spent many years trying to find candidates for the College Board. Not easy at all. And for years, I sort of thought to myself, geez, if I ever retire, imagine, yeah, I will run for it. And I was too glad when I did retire. I was feeling pretty comfortable, and I didn't know if I wanted to go to the challenger route because I'd tried to get Dennis Frisch in that way. And there's a reason it's hard to be a challenger, because the board has run a great ship. I mean, the Santa Monica College is the gem of the state as far as community colleges go. So you naturally have a great board steering that ship. So when an open seat come up, it's like, wow, all right, I am in, and really excited about it. Excited really because of the big sea change coming in education itself when students are coming back to the classroom. And the whole look of education is changing, where what I think is much needed, actually more accessibility when you think about it. Students that can't make it into classes and don't make it into classes have a chance to do it from home. And if the bond passes, the funds are going to improve. We have some classrooms that are set up for a hybrid model, but we need a lot more, because if you can imagine, just every student put up with Zoom through the whole pandemic, and they didn't have a chance to interact with other students as they would. Long story short, you're in a classroom and you have cameras that follow the professor, microphones that capture all the conversation. That back and forth is critical for in-class learning and for this hybrid model. So exciting things there. The bond also has this amazing housing feature that is a game changer for the college. Never before have we got into the idea of housing, but housing to help students that are at risk of being unhoused, or those that are unhoused presently. I had students when I was teaching over the years, had half a dozen students, either living out of their car, living on the streets, living in RVs, and they struggled and went through hell. And quite frankly, this is a great opportunity to help them out on a campus that has the Bundy campus has a bus going back and forth all day long. So that's another exciting feature. And I'll be working with colleagues. I've worked for the board. I've known them for over 10 years, and they get involved with the DEM Club. They get involved with other organizations, and I plan to do the same thing.
Great, thank you. So we're going to go around asking a few questions. I have one I wanted to start with. So I was reading through your questionnaire, and in the part about potentially building affordable housing for unhoused students, you mentioned some concerns about how the program might be implemented, and you said you wanted to make sure you were in the room to see how it plays out. So what kind of outcome would you be looking for if that kind of project was happening? What would be the advantage of having you in the room? How would you try to guide the project? Well,
if you can imagine, and I hate to bring up things that had gone wrong, but everybody knows the student services was a hole on PICO for a long time. There's no telling. It's a complicated mess, and I knew something about it. And no one and everyone's to blame. They try to sort of a grandiose idea of a design, and it's easy to sell, but when it comes down to getting it through DSA, the Department of I'm drawing a blank now. He is the architect.
The Office of the State Architect.
Thank you, thank you.
That's all right.
It took forever to get through there, and when they did, they ended up not being able to build that building and starting all over. Well, it's the people in the room at the time when the early talks of implementation. Hopefully, they can help each other reach a consensus on the direction, because there's one thing to get funds to do something. It's another thing to get funds to get it done in a timely manner and be a successful program. Because there's many things about it. I do think we're going to have to partner with UCLA and other schools around us that have done housing to get some good advice.
Patricia.
My question was on that as well. And Shai was saying to us last night that that the money in this tax is for planning of housing and not for that. There's no money in it for building housing. Is that correct, or is that your understanding of it?
That wasn't my understanding, although it could be true. There's not much talk about what it's going to be. I mean, I talked to a couple people in the know that talked about a dormitory style 275 beds. And that's kind of where I got the impression that was being built. But if it's this type of thing might be that long a term where you start planning with those funds. Because there's a lot of other things that are we're trying to do with the bonds, so that could be true. I got super excited out of the gate about it, so I was hoping it was going to happen. And if Shai's right,
I haven't read it either, and so I apologize for that. And I will support the bond regardless, but I'm also under the impression that you haven't yet spent down the other, well, for sure the last two bonds. You've passed 3 GO bonds in the last 30 years or so, and the first one I think has been mostly spent down, but the other 2 haven't, and I do think that that's a problem. It came up last night when Shai was talking about, oh, we're not building housing with this, which put up the flag to me. That means, okay, we're going to be doing another college bond in 2 years. So, I know it's better to ask your colleagues who put the bond on the ballot than, but I'm not trying to trap you on anything. I just want to, we need to get clear on that.
Well, quite frankly, I think it's, well, I've already approached that night in front of City Hall, where the city gets to show off its services. It was really nice, but when I went up to the table, the 4 tables of the neighborhood groups, wow, not too crazy about the idea, and I can see that it's not going to be easy to get this passed. But understand, as these bonds come up, I've been on campus. I see them trying to get the right things done. The beautiful math and science building and the planetarium are going up presently. And I watched, and I actually got a nice office in the student services just in time for a golden handshake and for them to tell me, which has been good. But yeah, it's a complicated situation, and I'm just going to take as much advice from my colleagues and anybody like people on this exec board and SMER to move forward and make the best of what we can do.
Thank you.
Let's go to Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Tom, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I have a question. There's a few places in your questionnaire, where you talked about, your role as political director for the faculty association, and I'm curious how you think your, years of doing that are likely to affect or impact your approach once on the board, whether that's on contract or other issues, and are there things that you would do differently than incumbent trustees, given, your experience there and that vantage point that you had?
Well, I like the fact that I am coming in with a lot of experience. And I sort of come from, there's no doubt, I come from the union. I come from a couple of unions. I really believe in fair contracts. Contracts, obviously a really tricky business at the college, because especially with the faculty association, they are the main recipient. I mean, that's, once you pay the faculty, there's not a whole lot left. So when they get substantial raises, there has to be money for it. So, I like to say, in the room, where board members talk about it, I hope to be able to give a fresh look to that board of just how hard they work and how important they are to students, and that goes for counseling, because that's a huge department, which I was in. They're going to play a critical role as we come back into the classroom, because studies have shown that everybody has been traumatized by this pandemic, and so it's going to take some real care and extra training, and as we move forward. So yes, I come from a union background, but and I have union support, and no doubt about that. But I'm still me. I was a professor of students, not of faculty, and my heart's in this city too. I mean, it's organizations like this and others that I have embraced since I've been here, and it's amazing. Nowhere else in the country you'll find a situation like Santa Monica.
Dan.
Thanks, John. Tom, great to see you again.
Hey, Dan, good to see you.
My question for you is, so we often hear from certain corners of Santa Monica that Santa Monica College should be reserved for Santa Monicans, or that Santa Monicans should have preference in admissions or different positions. What do you think about that position?
Well, for one, they do have students from Santa Monica, residents do have priority enrollment, as do veterans and persons with disabilities. I mean, it does give them a slight advantage in getting classes. Understand, my perspective has always been, we have Samuel High, and we have a feeder into the college, and we have a 2-year, we have dual enrollment where students can get introduced and go to the college in their senior year. And part of me has always wondered why that percentage is low. But when you think about the demographics of Santa Monica and kind of the wealth of Santa Monica, I think if you took a look at the numbers, all the students are going to college. They just might not be going to a community college. They go right into UCLA or one of the UCs or anywhere around the country. I was tickled to find out that the campaign manager we used when we ran Dennis Frisch, Angela Smith, she was the first student that went right from Santa Monica College to a full ride at Stanford. And then, so all kinds of things that happen, but I say we support them and go in and be present at the high schools and try our best to let them know that we have a treasure right here in our city. Even for my daughter, she's going to college, but I would point to Santa Monica. Do your first 2 years there. Be close to mom and dad, and because you can always go to a fine school. The true strength of the degree afterwards is the last 2 years. 2 years of Santa Monica College, and then a bachelor's someplace. So, yeah, that's my take on that.
Janine.
Hi, Janine.
Oh, hi there. It's good to see you.
Nice to see
And I checked out your questionnaire, and an issue that we're all very concerned about is the achievement gap and completion rates. And we'll certainly have a lot of questions for the Santa Monica School Board about that. And that's pretty much essentially what comes to you in the classroom, what they've learned in their pre-college education. So you speak to a lot of amazing things that you've done with instructional design in the classroom, but the achievement gap and completion rates is a broader picture, what they bring in from their pre-Santa Monica College life, some social and community factors. And can you speak to what you're seeing right now at Santa Monica College, and maybe some details about what you think needs to be done so that we can see a better achievement gap and completion rates?
Well, one advantage Santa Monica College has is it has one of the best counselor to student ratios in the state. And I mean, you know, you say the best, right? I think it's 340, 350 to 1, which is whoa. Well, imagine how bad all the other colleges are. Not bad, but I mean how stretched that department is in other community colleges. We have the counselors, and like I say, I was in that department, and it's a really strong department that I can only. I'm sure that they're gearing up for students coming back because of what I mentioned earlier, how traumatized everyone was from this pandemic. And so, and the makeup of the counseling department is very diverse. And so students, Latina students, often sitting across the table from a Latina counselor, same with Black students, students of color, and so on, and they I would think know and feel the issues they're having. What comes up next after that is getting resources to them. One of the nice things in the bond is embedded tutors in the English department, which I think I put in my comment. We need that in math also, because those are two of the big departments, and those are the two subjects incoming students struggle with. And that achievement gap can be narrowed if I love the idea of embedded tutors. So the student might understand right at the moment why they're kind of not getting it from the teacher, and what is that student talking about, et cetera, et cetera. We need programs like that where the counseling department is sort of built into the classroom somehow to be more involved rather than waiting for. Unfortunately, I always think it's unfortunate that students are encouraged to go to counseling, and I'd like to see us do a better job of outreach, of maybe having other students peer-to-peer talk to them about what they got out of the counseling department, and that could help a lot.
All right, let's have the last question to Danny.
Hi, Danny.
So if elected in your next term, if there could just be one thing that you want to accomplish or one idea that you want to see implemented, what would that be?
Well, these are my faculty. Yeah, it's the full-time part-time ratio. To me, that's such a big deal, because I don't know if I had numbers in there. It's roughly 300 to, it used to be 300 full-timers to 1,000 faculty, and now it's 300 to 850 because of all the part-timers who lose their assignments. It's weird, you know. We can say we never lay off or get rid of, they just don't get assignments. But the point is that part-time full-time ratio really needs to be squeezed a little towards the middle, one of the more successful schools in the state was the City College of San Francisco, who actually almost has, or presently has, a 1-to-1 ratio of full-time faculty. And what that does for the institution, all the committees are fully staffed, all the student clubs have advisors. We have a hard time getting advisors because I was full-time tenured faculty. I was on 3 hiring committees at a time and 2 other committees. I mean, we really have to carry a heavy load. And that's what people don't see when they see 300 versus 1,000. That's 300 doing a lot of things that the part-timers aren't able to do. They do a fine job. They're just on the road to another school, you know, or, you know, it's just not the same experience. And so I'll be pushing towards getting that. And Dr. Jeffrey tries to hire as many full-timers as the board directs it to, because it's a priority, but it's a slow process, and it doesn't help that a lot of people like myself retired. We have to be replaced. I hope that answers.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tom. I think that about wraps it up. I appreciate you stopping by.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Nice seeing all of you.